Small business owners, entrepreneurs, medium startups, and VCs, this one's for you. Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution, hosted by Elevate Talent Solutions founder and CEO, Ron Miller. Through Ron's own hard-won wisdom, along with an array of luminaries across the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you'll glean priceless wisdom that will help you see past the day-to-day grind and into the future where you can check off today's to-do list and achieve innovation and elevation to ensure your business is future-proofed. Fulfilling and profitable, it's time for Beyond the Bottom Line, Balancing Evolution with Execution. Take it away, Ron.
All right, everybody. So welcome back to another great episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. And we're going to get right into it because, first of all, I need to offer an apology to my guest today, Brad Smith, because as you at home self-doing podcasters like myself that are listening, you know, sometimes we hit these technical glitches, and everybody that listens knows the one time that we digitally yeeted our good friend Lainey Belcastro. Even though you could see her, you couldn't hear a thing she said. Well, we went the opposite direction with Brad in our original recording, and we made sure everything he said echoed back twice. So we are back here today with Brad Smith. And we're going to be getting into recruiting and staffing because they're changing fast. The tools are getting smarter, and somehow the way we're using them, it isn't getting smarter. And that's exactly why today's conversation really matters. And you know that famous line from The Princess Bride where Inigo Montoya says, "You keep using that word, but I don't think it means what you think it means." Well, that's AI in recruiting right now in one sentence. And that's why I'm excited about today's star guest, Mr. Brad Smith, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at Haley Marketing. And he has spent the last 23 years working with staffing and recruiting companies of every size, helping them craft smarter marketing strategy and messaging. And over the last few years, Brad and the team at Haley have also been working closely with one of the world's leading AI consulting agencies to figure out how AI can actually help staffing firms gain a competitive advantage instead of turning it into another shiny brand new tool that people don't use or use the wrong way. AI isn't replacing recruiters anytime soon, but recruiters misusing AI, and that's an entirely different story. So Brad, welcome in. I am excited for this one for sure.
Ron, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm excited as well.
Absolutely. So let's get in and let's kind of start our conversation here again, Brad. So why is it that you think companies keep treating AI like a shortcut instead of a strategy?
I think it's because people are unsure of capabilities. So in many cases, it's brand new. In some cases, there's no one on the team that has any expertise at all. In other cases, it's one more investment that companies have to make in a down market. And whether that's investment is in a technology spend or just in reallocating resources to allow people to learn and implement and scale this, I think it's a challenge right now in today's market. I will say, though, that the companies that don't are going to be at a extreme competitive advantage because the scalability of AI, the value that AI can provide in thought leadership, in time savings, in scaling is amazing. But the key is you have to do it right. It's not just using a tool for sake of using a tool. It's using it right.
Well, and that's I couldn't agree more. And it's not just because you're my guest and I've seen you speak and I love what you say. It's honestly because I agree, because I've lived it. You know, I've implemented 2 AI tools in the last, 6 years. And I can tell you, like, where I always see this go sideways is, number one, everyone is condensing down. It doesn't matter what you think. The market is the market right now, and everybody is hurting one way or another. Revenues are a little bit down. Resources are getting reallocated, but we see thousands and thousands and thousands of layoffs. And when you have tools like this and you want to have this AI revolution, it's not technically to replace all the people, because let's be honest, if AI replaces people, what are people going to do for work? You're not going to be able to buy your product if all you have is AI doing the work, right? But to the point of doing it right in the training, we see companies over and over again. If you're not tied to revenue, you're expendable. And
Mhm.
those resources that are getting cut over and over and over are leaving the people completely exposed, in my opinion, on the backside, because now you have this great tool and you're trying to implement it the wrong way with very few resources and very poor training. So
Yes.
nobody knows how to use it right.
Yep. And training is key, right? It's giving people the tool, but then also walking them through how to use it and standardizing how to use it as well.
Exactly. And seeing the benefits of it and selling it up front to them of what it's going to be used for, and then the continuing education about it. So I think companies, they're looking for that silver bullet. And you talked about this at the NJSA conference where you spoke, which if you have not had Brad speak or see him speak, I cannot say enough great things about how engaging and insightful his presentations are. So please, if you're listening and you're looking for a speaker, look Brad up because it's a game changer. But you had said, something about staffing leaders are looking for a silver bullet, but they need to have a mindset shift. And what do you think that mindset shift actually is that they need?
Well, I think you're dead on. It's the mindset shift that the silver bullet doesn't exist in the way that you think it does. And what I mean
Wait,
by
can you
that
can you say
is
that again for the people in the back, Brad?
for sure, the silver bullet does not exist in the way that you think it does. And what I mean by that is in the past, you could launch a campaign, you could launch a technology, you could launch a tool and see results begin coming in. Today, with all of the noise, with everything that's going on for people, the silver bullet really is doing a lot of different things consistently. So it's not looking for a technology that is going to replace your recruiter completely. It's not looking for something that is going to eliminate your salesperson completely. It's looking for those tools, those processes, that technology that can augment what those people do and get those people to the human interaction faster and more effectively. And the staffing and recruiting companies that I see gaining market share are the ones that are doing that. They've put the systems in place. They're using the AI to 10x the productivity of their sales and recruiting people and to get their sales and recruiting people to stop wasting time on those low level administrative, I call them comfortable tasks, the time fillers that people are good at or maybe even sometimes enjoy doing, but getting them to the revenue drivers faster. And that's, I think, the key.
Connecting with people to put them to work and connecting with customers to come up with a solution, right?
Yes.
Imagine that, a tool that could eliminate all of the white noise and busy work if you use it right. I don't think, and this is my opinion, and I don't want to speak for you, but this is what I see going on. I see it all over LinkedIn every day. I see it in sub chat groups every day. You know, there is a major disconnect today in the candidate process to apply and the recruiting process and getting back. And the amount of ghosting that is happening out there is at a rate I have never even seen. I'll go back to the what we've experienced for those of us that lived through the dot-com burst, the mortgage crisis burst, that little blip that we had in 2015, 2016 of the economy. Like, there are times where as a recruiter or a talent acquisition professional, you physically can't get back to everybody because there's so many people, but it changes your strategy. You don't need to post all these jobs out, because if you're doing your recruiting the right way, you're doing things proactively, you have a pipeline built, you're able to really kind of get through everybody. But I think companies are looking at this and saying, hey, this is a way that I can automate all that stuff. It's a magic bullet. Like, go back to like text us where you could see the results. I mean, I know from experience in all these years rolling out text us, instant results, mass emailers, instant results. But it also created a lot of instant problems down the road that you weren't thinking about at the time. But I don't know that we're seeing those instant results with a lot of these AI rollouts. And a lot of them, short of the term using the term failing, they're not working and returning the ROI that companies think they should. Now
It,
you've seen a lot of AI rollouts. Where do you think are the real misses? Is it mapping? Is it training? Is it prompting? Is it change management? Like, What are you seeing with all of the AI rollouts that you are a part of and that you've seen or heard about?
Yeah, great question. It's all of those things that you just mentioned. It's upfront, not defining the why for your people. So you think about it from the employee standpoint or the individual recruiter or the individual salesperson. They're threatened. So they're looking at AI as, oh my gosh, this is going to replace my job. I need to prove why it doesn't work. Well, that's in most cases not why leaders are investing in it. They're investing in it to make that person more productive, to help the company and also help them. If they're more productive, they're going to make more. So I think you need in a rollout to go into it explaining the why for the end user, the end person, what's in it for them. So it can't just be a cost savings for the company. That's not compelling to the end recruiter. You need to explain the why to them. Once they truly understand the why, then I think they're open to using the tool more effectively. Then it's reps, then it's training, and then it's standardizing that process across all recruiters. And where I also see AI rollouts fail is only getting people to use the tools at the surface level. So if you're only using AI to say, hey, write this blog post or write my email to the client or rewrite this resume for the candidate, or I want to submit this candidate, do a write up for me to send to a potential client, you are going to get the same output that every other staffing and recruiting company is getting. We need to level up. And that's really what I try to teach and preach to clients is a process and a prompting methodology to level up, to not just get surface level results, but get beyond that, get deep, get to the core differentiator, and give your people something that actually stands out and does get that prospect to move on to the next level.
And I love that. And, if I go back, through my experience, through some of these rollouts that I've done, you know, first and foremost, right, what you started with, Brad, the marketing plan, right? Internally and externally, and where I saw this go extremely well at one company that I was with, and we had tremendous results on an early staffing app that wasn't just part of a standard platform that a lot of companies had used at the time, but they really put the time and effort and energy into building their own app and platform. But there was a very strategic, elongated internal marketing plan that was put out. Just that point, how is this going to benefit you in your role? What is it going to replace? What is the benefit for you in not having to do these parts of it anymore? These are the key points to look out for, and this is how we're going to reinvest your time. And then educating the people on the other side of that equation, the people applying for jobs that are in your database, about what your tool does, how it works, how to get the most out of it. And I think that's a huge miss right now in this AI world of candidates have no idea who they're writing for anymore. And they don't understand the different tools. Like, I love the resume experts that are all out there that say, hey, you need an AI compliant resume. Okay, great. Which one of the 168 tools that are plugins for ATSs that are available right now do you solve for? How do you know that you solve for them, and what are the keyword clusters? Because we don't know what the keywords were, right? And how to get through. And then I want to go to recruiting training. But I think that initial part is a huge miss because nobody knows what the other side's doing.
Yeah.
And then one key area too, Brad, that I have seen that is a complete buzzkill for this thing, right, is mapping. Because if we're honest, a lot of people that are working at these corporations that were there when the ATS was set up and the whole mapping occurred, they're gone. They've been downsized, they're retired, and nobody knows why the leg bone's connected to the shin bone and the shin bone's connected to the clavicle. Well, on a human map, that doesn't make any sense. In the tech world, it does. But if you don't have it mapped, then you get no results from it. And that also comes back to recruiters and companies using the ATS and updating it. Because if you have garbage in, you get garbage out.
Yep.
So there's nothing even to map to. So you have this dual fold problem. out there. I know I had to solve for it at one place because I was at a company where none of the offices when I walked in the door on day one into that role were utilizing the ATS. Everyone was keeping their candidates, their info, their notes on Google Docs.
Yep. And sometimes they perceive it as easier, but all you're
Yep.
doing is hurting yourself as the recruiter. If you don't get militant about data
Yep.
entry and making sure things are mapped, you're going to be wasting your own time. You're going to be wasting company resources, and you're
Yeah.
going to be defeating the purpose of the AI. So you're dead on. Mapping and data integrity is a big challenge, and companies that standardize and build a process around that are the ones that are going to see the full advantage of these tools.
Exactly. And I will tell you, both of these tools that I have implemented myself at places, when we went back and started updating candidate data, the offices that actually took it seriously and participated had much better results and better adoption than the ones that didn't. The
Yep.
ones that didn't, it doesn't work, it's not going to work, I can't do that, it doesn't do this, and then they want to use it as a mass mailer or whatever, and that's not the intention of the tool. And it became extremely problematic, but it's the basis of the job that gets you the results, and then you can stop doing that busy work. And the other piece is that training piece, and I cannot emphasize enough. And I'll speak from my personal experiences leading this and fighting the fight of, we don't have money for training, we don't have budget for training, we're running out of time, this thing needs to get launched, we've made a big investment, so we're just going to do it virtual, put 180 people on a call, do 4 calls, and we'll call that training. And you know what happens every time?
Yep.
All those things together, that you're talking about, I'm talking about. It's, and listen, I'm going to use you've known me long enough now, so I'm going to use a whole movie quote here, man. It's like Shane Falco in the movie The Replacements. You get caught in quicksand, and the more
Yep.
you struggle to get out of it, the deeper you sink. And companies are making quicksand, and that's kind of where we're at. And they need to stop struggling, throw up a hand, and say, "Give me a rope," and get yourself pulled out in order to get these things back on track.
Yeah. I'd like to think that at Haley Marketing we're on the forefront of AI, especially in the staffing and recruiting industry. But we brought in a consulting company, which you mentioned in my intro, and we looked for who was doing it even better than we were. And we aligned ourselves with them. We learned our best practices, and then we built systems and processes that then eventually rolled into tools and standardization. And that's when we started to see the return on that investment.
Oh, and I think it's a good segue because you have done something very unique that a lot of companies aren't doing, or they're just not there yet, because they're using AI, and recruiters are doing it and candidates are doing it too, right? It's not just one-sided. They're using whatever AI engine that's out there as like Google, and it's not built to be Google. It's about prompting. So this is a big differentiator, and I'd love to get into prompting because this is the tools that I want you to introduce here really
Sure.
shortly. This is what kind of feeds it, and what you were just saying there about partnering with an outside consulting agency that is having results in there. And a lot of companies aren't doing that. So let's get into that prompting. What's the difference between basic prompts and strategic prompts? Like the ones your team built that I'm going to let you introduce here at the end on
Sure.
your free for AI tools.
Yeah. So we went in and we said, all right, most companies are using AI at the surface level. So what can we do to get deeper, richer, better output, better content that truly differentiates? And this is where a framework called Rappel comes in. And Rappel is, and I'll walk through it. It's not our framework. It is a framework that came out of the work that we were doing with that consulting company that I mentioned. But basically, what we're doing is getting deeper and richer. We're explaining to the AI what its specific role is. So, in order to get great results from the LLM, whether you're using Gemini or ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever, you need to clearly explain to the AI what their role in this process is. Then we're getting into the action that we want them to take. So what is the final output that we want? And then we are getting into priming the conversation. So if you just go into an AI, and in the New Jersey Staffing Association's session that I did with you, the example that I used was just a cold call framework. If you go into it and say, give me a cold call script for reaching out to light industrial companies that need talent, you're going to get very surface level. But what we're doing is going in and we're having a conversation back and forth with the AI and having the AI tell us everything it knows about sales strategy, about cold call strategy. We're digging deep and developing ideal client profiles and personas for the people that we're selling into so that we have a deep understanding of who they are, what their biggest challenges are. That all goes into that priming conversation. So instead of just giving you a call script, it's giving me a call script that is scrutinized and detailed for each individual end buyer. It's going through and looking at all of the foremost sales experts and their researched back data to identify and define the absolute best key points that you need to get into that script. And we're doing all that back and forth. And then we're not just asking for one call script from the AI, we're building a scoring rubric where we're going into it and saying, all right, the absolute best, most successful outreach campaigns include these key elements. And we're using the AI to build that rubric. And then we're judging the content, the output, that sales script against that rubric. And then we're refining it 3 or 4 times. So instead of one simple prompt that's getting a very simple and surface level result, we're getting a more detailed prompt that digs in, forces the AI not to be lazy, forces the AI to compare its output against even better output. And then we're ending up with the absolute like gold top tier candidate script that we could possibly get out that's leveraging book after book, speaker after speaker, consultant after consultant, and using all of their best practices together to come up with the best possible version that is so much better and so much different than the surface level result that other people are getting.
And listen, until probably the last 6 or 8 months, I was kind of doing it the same way as everybody else, right? And as a solo business owner, right? I don't have a budget for our staff or anybody else yet, so I'm using different prompts and comparing against each other, trying to get good outcomes with content, messaging, sales messaging, follow up. I have a metabot that helps answer questions on my website, and I thought I was doing things pretty proactively better than others. And after kind of listening to a lot of different individuals before hearing you speak and looking at your tools, because there's a stark difference between what I was doing and the results I was getting pre NJSA conference versus post NJSA conference, which I'm going to share when you hit this here quick. But
Sure.
it's night and day when you understand. Listen, your AI, we're not working in Cyberdyne Industries here, right? For those of you that love the Terminator series, we don't have tech that thinks for itself, understands human emotion, and is making decisions. It is scouring the internet. It is giving you all of what it can find from any platform, good, bad, or indifferent. And it's giving you an average. And then it's getting you something very generic that is safe, could have inherent bias, depends on where it pulls it from, because the whole idea is not for you to just do this, copy paste and go, and voila, there's a magic bullet. Doesn't work that way. And then it's giving you thoughts and ideas of what to do, and the whole idea is you take yourself and what you know and how you operate, put it in there, and then it generates something that is more holistic and sounds more human. But people, I don't think, understand that. And you guys have done something, and you shared this at the NJSA. And for me, this was a big game changer. So you had shared there were four different prompt engines that you had created that you shared with everybody that are amazing.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. So all that whole process that I just mentioned, that rappel framework and going through that, that takes a lot of time and effort. And
Yeah.
if you're going to do that each and every time you use an AI model, it's going to take a long time. And if you start from scratch every time, you're not going to reap the benefit of scalability and standardization and everything else. So, what we like to do is use that prompting methodology to come up with a framework and then have the AI learn that framework. That's the L in Rappel. Learn and systematize that framework. Then we take that and we create a repeatable process around it. So we created GPT. So what I did is I said, all right, what are some of the close to the revenue activities or the highly valuable activities that I want my internal team or my clients' internal teams, the staffing owner and recruiters and salespeople, what are they doing over and over that we can systematize, standardize, and elevate using AI? And we took that and we built that into repeatable GPTs. So instead of having to go through that extensive framework and priming model and everything else, we've already done that. Those are all free, and I've created those at haleymarketing.com/staffing GPT. So all one word. You can go there, you can download those for free, but we've created content clustering tools so that you can understand what type of content really resonates with people, what they want. We've created a persona generator. You can get a deep understanding for who you're selling into or who you're recruiting into, what keeps them up at night, what message would resonate with them. We created a AI resume detector. We've created a tool to turn your content into amazing social content. So these are all free tools that I've used deep prompting methodology on to rebuild and replicate and give to staffing companies so that they can easily elevate their game and provide the standard process for their teams to use it more effectively.
And Brad, I'll tell you, I was blown away because I went in and I used the tools that you shared with us. And one, what I really liked about it is when I went to the site and I started to build out my buyer personas, it actually imports it into the AI tool that you're using. So it opens it up. So if you're using Gemini or GPT, it actually creates it as a project line and it pulls everything right in. And you're able to kind of go through it. And it really gave me a better breakdown of who my buyer personas were. I took that finalization, it took me a little fine tuning to get there, right? And talking back and giving feedback. But then I
Yep.
copied that, I put it into the content clustering. And when I utilized the info that came out of that and added my voice to that, my posts, the impressions alone until last week, and I'll talk about this for a second, but my impressions were going from several hundred on every post up to over an average in between 11 and 14,000.
Wow.
It was night and day. I
Yep.
mean, just night and day when you're able to use that engine that you guys created to really get down to those core differentiators and then understand how to use your personality and your messaging to fine tune it to speak to those decision makers or those candidates or whatever it is that you're trying to get in front of. That's the way to use the technology.
Yep. And Ron, you mentioned two key things that I just want to key in on. One, you didn't not trust the first output, but you didn't settle for the first output. You had dialogue back and forth. That's a key. You, as the human, you, as the end user, add a lot to the conversation. Have that conversation back and forth. Don't trust the initial output. And then also not thinking that it's a silver bullet. It's not. But it gets you so much farther ahead than you would on your own. So definitely use those tools. Don't trust the first output. Have a conversation back and forth.
Definitely. I mean, even on the marketing side, and I will say this for individuals that can't afford a marketing service yet. If you want to get to a point to have one, these are great tools to have because I utilize that persona. I pumped it into the prompts that I had created and looking at my websites, making sure I was SEO maxed, and it had me completely redo a lot of things. When I start going in there and looking at what I thought was occurring and wasn't, here again, I redid my websites. Luckily, I've gotten good at this now. I don't want this to be my vocation but I will tell you that if you're not being found on the first three pages of a search, you're non-existent. And all of a
Yep.
sudden, where unless I was doing specific marketing, sharing links, and forcing people out there and hoping they click on it and spending money to get them there, it wasn't converting over to anything. It was just converting to website visits. By
Mhm.
utilizing this information and building out new SEO on my sites, I'm getting just anywhere from 20 to 30 organic visitors without doing any of that other stuff now because I am optimized to do it. And it gets better over weeks. It doesn't happen overnight, but it gets
Yep.
better over time.
Yeah, for sure. And you've got to build up authority over time, but it starts with identifying what the biggest challenges, key questions your buyers or those that you're looking to
Yep.
recruit are asking. And if you can answer those questions, you're going to position yourself great not only for the search engines, but for the AI models. And I think that's where we're transitioning to. People are searching in a different way than they were before. It's getting hyper personalized. So we can use AI at scale to create hyper personalized content that really addresses their key challenges. And I think in the long term, that's how you win the online visibility game.
Absolutely. 100%. And the candidates, they're using AI too, right? We see it, we know it. Like we're putting them in a position where they don't have a choice because everybody wants to see something different, but nobody wants to share what they want to see. Yeah, I mean, I've had recruiters say to me, honest to God, like in your resume, I need to see not just the company you worked at, but I don't understand who they are. So you got to tell me in two sentences what they do. Okay, number one, you have zero business being in the people business. Okay, like I'm done. You're asking for candidates to do too much, and you're causing again your own Shane Falco quicksand because nobody
Mhm.
knows what you want, nobody can figure you out, nobody's guessing where you are or what's in your mind. And now candidates are trying to tailor resumes for tools that may or may not exist where you're at, and it's creating bad connection because the
Yep.
resumes aren't there. And you see it on the recruiter side. Recruiters like, I get all these fake resumes or blah, 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 and they don't have the experience. Now, I know it's not plausible to get down to is it, but you guys created that resume detector that,
Yeah.
let's talk about
Yeah.
that a little bit because this will really interest recruiters.
Yeah, yeah. When we were preparing for the conference, Ron and I had a conversation. So I wanted to know, all right, who's attending the conference? What are some of the biggest challenges? And one of the things that we talked about was the issue of ghosting, was the issue of resumes being fabricated. To Ron's point, candidates are being pushed and pushed, and they might be using AI tools to take their standard resume and op optimize it for the job posting. What does that optimization mean? It's going through the job posting and fabricating a candidate's history or background to make it look extremely appealing to that job description. Then the human interviews the candidate, and you're thinking to yourself, is this the same person that was on paper? They don't have any of these skills. They don't have any real world experience of doing these things that the resume says it does. So what's happening is recruiters are wasting a ton of time on candidates that are unqualified, and we're wasting candidates' time for a job that they don't have the skills for. Just because some AI tool was used to submit that resume to 1,000 different jobs in one click. So I went through and I said, all right, that's a common problem that my recruiters are facing. Let's think about how we use AI and technology to solve that problem, or at least get to a solution quicker. So whenever we go into thinking about AI, it's always thinking about, all right, what's a common challenge that we're running into? How can we get better results and how can we systematize this? So we went through and created a GPT or a tool that you can simply upload a resume to. It will go through that and it will spit back a score or a percentage to tell you how much of that resume it thinks was created by AI. It'll give you some pointers that you can even give back to the candidate and say, hey, these 3 sections of your resume look to be 90% AI generated. It's probably not going to pass any type of screener at the end employer. Let's go back through and let's together update and reflect. Let's create a better representation of your skills. So if you want to increase your placement ratio, this is a great way to do it. If you want to create a better screener for your recruiters, this is a great way to do it, and really give you more confidence in who you're presenting to your end client. And also hopefully save a lot of time. So think about the time that your recruiters spend screening candidates that aren't a fit. We can use AI to eliminate that so that they can, instead of spending time with 50 candidates, spend time with 5 candidates to really find that person that's the perfect fit. And that's where I think AI becomes powerful. We've got a tool called Instant Interview that we just launched. It will go in, and candidates crave speed right now. They crave responsiveness. So this will actually have an AI that will interview them either by voice or chat, whichever they prefer. And the recruiter comes in the morning and they've got 5 candidates that are already pre-vetted that meet their criteria. They didn't have to do any of that initial screening. To me, that's the power of AI. It's using those tools to eliminate those admin functions that don't add value to the end client and make your recruiters 10x their productivity. That's where it's powerful.
I could not agree more on that end game, Brad. I mean, that's exactly where that power comes in, and unless you're willing to make the time and the investment and the training and building it the right way, you're going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expect different results. And that's just the definition of insanity.
For sure.
So,
Yep.
and interesting little factoid, right? And this is for anyone that's job seeking that's listening to this, because I know I have some of you out there and share messages. So if you want to make sure that a resume service that you're following, you've been considering, you think is legit and kind of checks out that they are, let me tell you a little story from my own personal vault here. Before I started my own company, right? And I was in the market for the first time really in my career looking for a job, like a lot of you, just a victim of just position elimination. I've been in recruiting for 29 years. Am I the best resume writer? Probably not. But that's not my job. My job is connecting candidates, connecting companies, driving solutions, right? I can tell you what I like to see, but doesn't mean it's a great resume. So after following somebody for 2 years that had a great story all the time, always had a great relatable story, and everything on their site was a very good, well written, in depth story about something with great results and some pretty decent reviews that I myself didn't dig into. I spent $682 getting a resume professionally written for someone at my level. Never generated results. And after looking at the resume detector tool, oddly enough, the other week, Brad, I just popped my $682 resume in there and asked that question: how much of this resume do you feel is AI generated? 8 out of the 10 sections in that resume, it felt strongly that it was AI generated content. And when I really dug through it and looked at it, somebody just had a good story and a bullshit service. So, guys, I'm telling you right now, if you're thinking of like a resume service and you want to just check something out, find people that have used it and ask them for a copy of it. Pump it through there and it'll tell you whether they're legit or whether they might be full of crap. You can also use this from the candidate side, guys, right? It's also a good lesson too. Don't just pop stuff into GPT and push it out thinking you're resume compliant, right? Tell your story, hit facts, have results. Don't go crazy in it, because the whole idea is to get someone to talk to you, right? It's it's like meeting someone for the first time. You don't spill your life story and then like, oh, we got nothing to talk about now, right? It's all about how do you get the conversation to continue. But it was interesting, Brad, and using it in that respect, I was so pissed. I was like,
Sorry,
How
Ron.
can I, after all of this time, did I get duped? But I
Yep.
did. I
Yep.
did. And I can't get
And
that $682 back, and anyone out of work right now, that got that kind of money to spend. So,
yep. And it'll happen and it won't be perfect. And you'll think to
yeah.
yourself down the road, boy, how could that happen? But move forward, right?
Yeah.
We just move
Yeah.
forward. We learn from it.
Oh. Well, Brad, it's always great having this conversation with you and getting your insights. And I would say, hey, on a closing note for the leaders listening, what would you suggest are the best first steps to integrate AI the right way?
Yeah, great question. So I would start by asking your team what are those tasks that they do on repeat that could be automated, right? Then I would look at what's closest to revenue. What can I create some good, easy wins in? And I'll give you a real specific example. So I think people are getting better at using AI on the recruitment side. I see the next frontier of using AI on the sales side. So that persona creator that I mentioned, the buyer personas, we used that tool for one of our clients to identify their top 5 industries and buyers they were going after. We created a marketing campaign that goes and reactivates past clients that fall into one of those 5 industries. And then we created content that was hyper personalized for each one of those buyers and personas. We rolled that 10-week sequence out in automation, and they generated almost $1 million in revenue just on clients that were passive that hadn't placed an order in the last 6 to 2 years. Now, is that an amazing marketing strategy? I like to think it was very good. Was it amazing? No. But we identified the close to the revenue activity that was going to get wins. And then we used AI to customize and standardize all of it. And we rolled that out very quickly. If you were to tell me that you were going to launch a marketing campaign that had 6 unique segments, and under each of those 6 segments had 3 different buyers that you were targeting, if you would have told me that 5 years ago, I would have said it's going to cost you a whole heck of a lot of money. We used AI to democratize that, reduce costs probably tenfold, and improved results tenfold. So it was a win. So identify what's close to the revenue, think about those easy wins, and begin to roll that out. Don't wait. Test, iterate, learn, improve, and move on to that next. And I think that's the winning formula.
I love that, and I mean, listen, those are win-wins, right? You're generating revenue that wasn't there. You're saving costs in order to get there. You got to do the work because there is no shortcut, right? And listen, for small business owners out there, I know like $1 million is a lot of money, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of us in small business still just trying to keep going, man. 10 or 15% of that means whether we stay open for business or we don't, right?
Yep, for
So
sure.
there is such great value in these tools and understanding how to use them right, but also knowing that there are resources out there, folks, that have information that can help you. And that one of those is my friend Brad Smith here at Haley Marketing. So, Brad, thank you so much. Always, it's a great conversation. Thank you for coming on again. Really appreciate you having you.
Ron, thank you so much. And if anybody needs anything, I'm here. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to help in any way that I can.
Excellent. We're going to share all of Brad's information as well as the website in our podcast description notes. So, folks, closing out, recruiting is changing fast, right? Conversations like this remind us it's not about replacing people; it's about helping to make people better. And for everyone listening, if today gave you any sort of clarity or maybe even a wake up call, do me a favor, share this with someone who needs to hear it. And to check out the tools we talked about today, visit Haley Marketing at www.haleymarketing.com and connect with Brad on LinkedIn. Ask him for access to the free AI tools for staffing firms. You can also find it on their website. They're legit, they're free, and they're going to save you a ton of time. And as always, make sure that you hit that like or follow button so you don't miss the next episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Until next time, everyone, as Ron Burgundy says, keep it classy, San Diego.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Do you have questions for Ron or today's guest about this episode? Reach out and your question might be featured on next week's mailbag. You can learn more about Ron and Elevate Talent Solutions at elevate-talent-solutions.com or on LinkedIn. This podcast was edited and produced in partnership with Adrienne Ruthart, principal of boutique marketing firm ACR Ventures. Check her out at acrventures.com for all your small business marketing needs. Be sure to hit that follow button and send us love letters and episode ideas to Ron Miller at elevatetalentsolutions.net. Tune in next week, and thanks for listening.